Hear the stories about extremely bold people and their trash-tier attitude toward dogs. Story 1. The lady who tried to adopt my dog without asking. So, back when I was 19, I had this gorgeous Australian Kelpie named Sabby. My little brother was 6 at the time, and I'd always take Sabby along when I picked him up from school. After that, we usually stopped by this old-school diner right next to the pharmacy where my dad worked. Dad would finish his shift about an hour later, and then we'd all head home together. My brother usually grabbed some food and ran off to the arcade machine in the back to spend his pocket change, while I went outside to chill with Sabby, eat, and read on my tablet. This diner was a family-owned spot that had been around since the 1930s, right across from a popular tourist attraction. We knew the owners really well, and they adored Sabby. The wife of the owner would even give her free little treats, sometimes ice cream, sometimes bits of salty toffee. Sabby was basically the diner's unofficial mascot. On this particular day, my brother had a short school day, so we got there right after the lunch rush. I tied Sabby to one of the outdoor tables and went inside with him to place our order. The owners never minded. Everyone on staff loved Sabby, and most of them were high schoolers working their first jobs. I even ordered something for Sabby, like I usually did. Then suddenly the waitress looked panicked and pointed behind me. I spun around and there was this random lady, let's call her Karen the Collector, trying to drag Sabby out from under the table. She had one hand on the leash and was reaching for Sabby's collar with the other. Now, people had asked before if she was for sale. Sabby's always been a stunning dog, even now at 16 years old, but nobody had ever just straight up tried to snatch her. I bolted to the door and shoved it open so hard the glass rattled. Meanwhile, the cashier was already calling the owner in the back. "Excuse me, what in the holy chicken nuggets do you think you're doing with my dog?" I yelled once I got outside. Karen put on her sweetest voice and said, "Oh, I was just going to take her home with me," as if she hadn't just been caught red-handed trying to commit a doggo heist. I lost it. Step away from my doggo before I call the waffle cops. I'm a pretty big guy, about 6'1" and 275 pounds, so she yanked her hand back like she'd touched a hot stove. But then she tried to go on the offensive. "Well, you clearly don't care about her, leaving her tied up in the sun. You don't deserve such a sweet doggy." The audacity of this lady was through the roof. I tried to keep my cool. "Listen, ma'am," I said, fighting the urge to go full rage mode. "She's in the shade. She's got a bowl of water she hasn't even touched, and I was literally inside for 1 single minute. We eat here all the time. Everyone knows us. You really thought you'd just walk off with her?" Sabby, of course, bolted behind me the second I unhooked her from the table. I was ready to just walk away, but nope. Karen wasn't done. "You don't deserve such a beautiful dog. I want her for my children so they can play with her," she demanded. At that point, I saw my chance to flip the script. "That's actually a terrible idea," I said. "This breed is known for being absolute chaos goblins around kids." Karen froze for a second, like her brain just got hit with the Windows XP error sound. But she looks so sweet," she stammered. "Yeah," I said, keeping my voice calm but firm. "She's sweet with adults, but she doesn't tolerate loud or grabby kids. Honestly, if your little gremlins pulled her tail, she'd probably try to yeet them into the shadow realm." That seemed to finally make her hesitate, but she still wasn't giving up. "Well, then maybe you should sell her to me. I'd take better care of her than you." At that moment, the diner owner came storming out of the door, phone in hand. "Is there a problem here?" he barked, already looking like he was about to summon the banhammer of justice. Karen immediately switched tactics. "Oh, I was just concerned for the poor puppy. He left her all alone out here in the blazing sun." The owner gave her a look so sharp it could cut through titanium. "Lady, that dog has been coming here for years. Everyone here loves her. Don't you dare act like you're some saint when we literally caught you trying to walk off with her." Karen sputtered, tried to say something else, then realized the whole staff was now gathered behind the glass, watching like it was free reality TV. The waitress even had her phone out, probably recording. Karen finally did the world's slowest backpedal, mumbling something about misunderstanding and just trying to help before waddling off like a defeated NPC. Sabby leaned against my leg the whole time, tail wagging but clearly on guard. I gave her a treat, patted her head, and muttered, "Good girl, you just survived a great Karen kidnapping attempt of 20XX. The owner shook his head and said, "People really are wild sometimes." And that was that. Karen never came back to the diner. Sabby, however, kept getting free ice cream. Now here's the truth. What I said about the breed being bad with kids, that wasn't true about Sabby. She's always adored children, probably thanks to having a mix of Australian Shepherd in her. In my experience, that combo makes them amazing with kids. But there was no reason Karen needed to know that. When she replied, "What are you talking about? She's always so friendly whenever you come here." Alarm bells went off in my head. That meant she'd been watching us for at least a week or two, long enough to know our routine. It felt like this whole thing was planned. I doubled down. This is a herding dog. They were literally bred to manage half-wild cattle. They're called heelers because they nip at heels. People or animals, doesn't matter. She's no lassie. Not sure if she got the reference, but honestly, it didn't matter. My patience was gone. This is my dog, and you're not getting her. Leave before the waffle cops show up. The staff already called them. Total bluff. I had no clue what the staff was doing, but it bought me a minute. Enough to slip back inside and ask the owner, let's call him Mr. Diner Dad, if Sabby and I could wait indoors. One look at Sabby pressed against me like a scared marshmallow, and he said, "Go to the back room by the arcade. I'll let you know when it's safe." So we did. Sabby immediately cuddled up to my little brother, who she's always been glued to. Meanwhile, I heard Mr. Diner Dad lay into Karen. She even had the audacity to claim I had stolen our dog. The conversation went something like this. Karen, he just stole my dog. Owner, nice try. He's been a customer for years. That's his dog. I've known her since she was a puppy. Karen, I'm not leaving without her. Owner, in the calmest, scariest voice I've ever heard, no, you're leaving right now. We've got camera footage of you trying to take her. Karen, this isn't over. I demand to speak to the owner. Owner, that is the end. I am the owner, and you're banned from here and from every other shop in this town. Karen says, you can't do that. You don't have that kind of authority. Owner, actually, I can. I sit on the local council. Everyone's gonna know what you tried to pull. If you leave now, you might escape before his dad shows up. I already called him, and trust me, you don't want him angry. That last part was a total bluff, too. He hadn't called my dad, but I only learned that years later. Still, my dad was the type of guy who once scared the local sheriff out of our house for coming in uninvited, so it wasn't exactly unbelievable. Finally, Karen gave up, but before stomping off, she tossed one last half-baked threat. Fine, I'll leave, but this isn't over. Spoiler, it was over. She got banned from every local store and had to drive to the next town just to buy groceries. Eventually, when everyone learned what kind of person she really was, she packed up and moved away. The diner eventually got sold when the owners retired and moved to the Washington Peninsula. I still chat with them online sometimes. I even gifted the wife a tablet so she could read more easily. My dad's retired too. He spends his days in town playing music with friends. My brother and I both work at a local grocery. Sabby's still around. She's old, slower now, but still sweet. Loves kids, loves sweets, but we've had to cut her off a bit. This all went down in a small community about an hour and a half east of Seattle. It's a tight-knit place where families pass down businesses for generations. Sadly, big city folks moving in and chain stores opening up have been pushing out the little shops. So here's my PSA. License and microchip your pets if you can. If not, keep photos and vet records handy as proof. And for the love of fluffy potatoes, never leave your pet unattended in public. Don't make the same mistake I did. Story 2. The Bold family that tried to steal my dogs and then sued us. This all happened when I was 12. I grew up on a family farm way out in the middle of nowhere. We had about 350 acres of land and a driveway so long you couldn't even see our house from the main road. Because of that, people sometimes saw our dogs wandering near the property line and assumed they were lost. Even though all our dogs had collars with contact info, folks occasionally scooped them up and took them to the shelter, only to come back later apologizing. My parents always taught us to respect wildlife. We only intervened if something directly threatened us or our livestock. Their rule was simple. We live in their home. They were here first. Respect the land, respect the animals. Most of the time, critters left us alone, except for Jacob the black bear, who once broke into our grain bin, a few moose that munched on our hay, and one very determined cougar that figured out our llamas were basically fast food. That cougar took out all 9 of our llamas in less than a year. The final straw was when I stumbled across her mid-lunch. She was eating the last llama. Thankfully, our Pyrenean Mastiff, Toga, stepped between me and the predator. If it hadn't been for him, I probably wouldn't be here typing this. Dad decided it was time to do something. He hated the idea of killing the cougar, so he started looking for alternatives. Eventually, he found a breeder who told him that most cougars had bad run-ins with hunting dogs and would avoid them. That's how we got Timber Chop, a red coonhound flown in all the way from Virginia to Canada. He quickly became family and a neighborhood hero since his presence kept predators away and protected our livestock. Life settled down for a bit until the Bold family showed up. One afternoon, my brother and I were playing by the creek while our 5 dogs lounged nearby. Some random family pulled over, spotted the dogs, and decided they were strays. They hopped out of their van and started calling the dogs over. 3 of them ran back to us, but Timberchop and Toga stayed put. The dad, let's call him Captain Clueless, actually grabbed Timberchop by the collar and started dragging him toward their van. Timberchop freaked out, barking like crazy, which alerted us. I ran up and saw this grown man literally trying to haul my dog away, while his kids squealed about how cute he was and how he'd be the perfect dog for them. At first, I wasn't super worried. Like I said, sometimes people just assume our dogs are lost. But I shouted, "Hey, that's our dog. He's not lost." The kids immediately started wailing about how they deserved the dog. Their mom called me over so I wouldn't have to yell, but I refused and asked Captain Clueless to put Timberchop down. Instead, he growled, hoisted Timberchop up, and predictably got a warning chomp on the arm. Not a serious bite, just a back off bro nip. He dropped the dog and Timberchop bolted to my side. But then things escalated. Captain Clueless stomped toward me, red-faced, screaming that we didn't know how to raise dogs, that Timberchop would have a better home with them, and that he'd teach this little red goblin some manners. I panicked. I was just a 12-year-old kid with a doggo screaming for backup. Toga immediately planted himself between us, hackles up, growling like a furry tank. I begged the guy to stop, warning him that Toga would protect me. For a second, he hesitated, but then his wife and kids started yelling louder that they wanted this dog specifically. He lunged again. Toga knocked him flat, growling and snapping inches from his face every time he tried to get up. Another one of our dogs, my uncle's, came running at my screams and tore Captain Clueless's pant leg. At that point, my little brother sprinted home to get Dad while I tried to drag Toga off. The guy kept shrieking that he'd make sure all our dogs got banana yeeted into the forever nap, aka euthanized, and that we'd be banned from owning pets forever. I was bawling at this point, convinced Toga would be put down and Timberchop taken away. Dad finally arrived, storming in like an action movie character. The family instantly switched to victim mode, claiming Toga attacked for no reason. But Dad wasn't having it. He told them the police and ambulance were already on their way. If they tried to leave, he had photos of their van and the guy himself, and he'd push for every charge possible. He even called neighbors to come back him up if things went sideways. Police showed out. Paramedics patched Captain Clueless with 34 stitches. The family tried telling the cops the dogs weren't ours, that I lied, and that they just wanted to rescue them. Nobody bought it. Our dogs were clearly healthy, colored, and well cared for. Then Captain Clueless claimed that when I warned him to back off, he took it as a threat, which is why he didn't listen. He and his wife demanded that Toga be immediately euthanized. Police and medics told him straight he was lucky to even be alive because Toga was a guardian dog bred to protect. He did exactly what he was trained to do. But nope, Captain Clueless still filed a lawsuit against us. At the trial, the mom actually came up to my parents and offered a deal. If you give us Timberchop, we'll drop the case. My dad told her to go play hopscotch with traffic, but in far less polite words. Thankfully, Dad had installed cameras all over the property, so we had plenty of evidence. The judge was not amused that the family tried to spin it as me sicking the dogs on them when all they did was protect me. In the end, the judge flat out said, a 12-year-old boy against a 40-year-old man is not a fair fight. These dogs leveled the playing field. Case dismissed. And sometimes, I still wonder, after all the stitches, legal fees, and humiliation, wouldn't it have been way cheaper for them to just buy or adopt a dog? So, my brother legit wants our senior dog to just respawn in doggy heaven because he doesn't feel like walking her. I'm 27, my brother is 28, and we live with our 76-year-old grandma who basically raised us. I'm the one running the household, cooking, cleaning, groceries, errands, you name it. My brother, he does maybe 3 tiny things and only if grandma nags him. Otherwise, he just sleeps, eats, and plays video games all day like a professional couch goblin. He's never worked a job in his life. Grandma pays for literally everything. We've got 2 dogs, Binks, who's 2, and Chewy, who's 21. Yes, 21. He's basically ancient Yoda in dog form. Technically, Chewy belongs to the whole family, but Grandma originally got him from my brother when we were kids, hoping it would make him less of a hermit. Spoiler, it didn't. I ended up doing everything, feeding, walking, training, cleaning up for almost 20 years. I've walked Chewy through school, college, part-time jobs, even while sick, even once with stitches in my leg. No complaints. That's just life. In 2020, we adopted Banks, who's officially my dog. Grandma made it crystal clear, he's your responsibility. Don't expect your brother to lift a finger, which was fine because I already knew. So now I walk, feed, and train Banks and still do everything for Chewy. Here's the problem. Binks is a Zoomy-powered chaos gremlin, while Chewy is slow, blind, and partially deaf. Chewy can barely make it past the lawn, while Binks needs miles of running. Since our town requires leashes and our yard isn't fenced, I can't walk them together. Leaving Chewy tied up isn't an option either. He's so tiny a hawk could carry him off like takeout. So I asked my brother to help. Grandma even made it his only chore, walk Chewy. That's it. Just walk one small old pupper. And yet, my 28-year-old brother throws tantrums every single time. He ignores Chewy all day, refuses to stick to a schedule, then gets mad when the dog pees inside or barks to go out, usually while bro is napping or mid-raid in his game. He stomps around the house, yells at Chewy, yanks the leash, drags him back inside after 2 minutes, and even told me seriously that he can't wait for Chewy to just yeet into the afterlife so he doesn't have to deal with him anymore. Chewy has been with us for over 2 decades. My brother's been asked to walk him for a year and a half. That's it. And he's already wishing for the poor pup's game over screen. There's no happy ending here. My brother still refuses to walk him properly, grandma doesn't intervene, and I just try to handle Chewy myself whenever I can so my brother doesn't bully him. Chewy passed away in late April at the legendary age of 21 years and nearly 5 months. He lived a long, happy life and left surrounded by family. Even my brother was sad when he realized it was over. Still, 21 years. That's a record. Most dogs make it to 8, 10, maybe 15 to 18 if they're lucky. Chewy was basically immortal. I was walking my pupper one day near a wild park, and an old lady mutters to her husband, "Ugh, these dog owners. I'm so sick of their poop everywhere." I snapped back, but arguing with her was like trying to outspam a keyboard warrior. Every word I said, she fired back 10 curse words. I even showed I had poop bags, but nope, didn't matter. And her husband chimed in like, "Back in my day, this park was clean. Now it's ruined by you people." Meanwhile, the dude was standing next to piles of trash left by actual humans. Beer bottles, cigarette butts, old kebab wrappers, even random adult products. But sure, the real menace is biodegradable dog poop that the rain washes away. Somehow, people are more offended by a pupper sprinkle on the grass than by literal mountains of human garbage. Owning a dog sometimes feels like you're automatically branded a villain. People yell if your dog pees on a tree, complain if you bag poop and drop it in a public trash can, and the number of "no dogs allowed" signs just keeps growing. Sometimes it feels like we're forced to walk our pets in Narnia because there's nowhere else. So yeah, that's my rant. Fellow dog people, how do you deal with the constant side eye from strangers? Should parks allow dogs or not? And if not, where exactly are we supposed to take them?